So now we want to make queries to our database and we want to return back real data in our API instead of that static data. So right now we are still returning back everything from products.py. So let's go ahead and actually start making our queries and returning that data. So what we need to do first is we need to import our model. So from models we are going to import our product model. So we are just going to do product, and to actually make this query what we need to do is we are going to set the variable here. So we are going to do products, and to query that we are going to get the model. So product, then we are going to say object, then dot all. So dot all just returns back all the products from our database. And now this products variable right here is returning back the response from our database. So if you don't know what's going to happen here, this is going to give me an error because working with the Django REST framework, and this data needs to be serialized before it's returned back. So to the front end, so let me just show you. So if I scroll up to the top and I refresh, we are going to get back this error. And basically what this is telling me is that we cannot return back a query set. This needs to be serialized data because now we are working with the Django REST framework. So typically we can just return a query set, pass this into the template, and but now because this is the Django REST framework, we need to serialize this data. So we can't just return back the regular product. So what we need to do is we need to create a serializer for every single model that we want to return. So a serializer is going to wrap our model, and then it's going to turn that into JSON format. So if you are ever worked with model forms, you might see this. You might recognize what we are doing here. It's kind of the same thing here. So we are going to create a serializers.py. So we are going to, and in here is where we are going to create our serializers, and then we are actually going to import them. So to actually start working with this, we just going to do from Django or from REST uh, underscore framework import serializers. Then we need the user model. So I'm just going to go into my models.py. So we are going to pass that in here, and we also need the models because we need to serialize the models. So we are just going to do from models import all. So we'll just do, actually let's just do one by one. So we'll just do product, and in order to create a serializer, this is going to be a class, and we are just going to do class, and then we need to give the serializer a name. So we'll just say product serializer. So that's going to be the convention I'm going to use, is going to be the model name, and then end it with the serializer, and this just needs to be, or it needs to be inherit from serializer. And then we are just going to use a model serializer, Now we can do class and then meta, and in here there are two required attributes that we need. The first one is going to be the model that we want to serialize, and this is going to be the product. So product model. And so we have the product model, and then the next one is going to the fields that we want to actually render out. So what we could do is, in theory, we could just do something like name, and then it will only return back the name, and then let's say we want the price, so we can just do a list like that. But in this case I just want to return back everything, so we are just going to do underscore all and then close that out with the two underscores. So this is my serializer, and what this is going to do is it's going to wrap around my product model, turn it into JSON format. So to use this I'm going to save it. I'm going to go ahead and import my serializers now. So we are just going to do from serializers, import the product serializer, and so we have our serializers. And what we need to do is, after we get our query set, we are just going to create a serializer, and this is going to be an object. So we have our serializer, and we are just going to set this to the product serializer, and we are going uh, to pass in the products. So once we pass in our query set, now it knows to serialize all of these products, and we need one uh, more parameter, and this is going to be many, and we are going to set this to true. So what this is saying is, we are serializing one object, or are we serializing multiple? So later on when we get the single product, this will be set to false. So now that we have our serializer, we can just pass it in like that. We need to pass in the serializer data. So that's actually going to return back the query set, and now when we go back here, when we refresh, there we go. So now we are getting back real data from our database, and it's serialized. So this is that one product that I added. If you had other ones, you will see those now. And now we are starting to work with real data. So if I turn on my React server, so let's just go ahead and cd into front end. So let's just to do npm start. Now we are seeing real data from the backend. So we no longer have all of those items here, because we are not pulling from that products list anymore. This is items from our database. So if I go ahead and we'll just go into our admin panel, let's just go ahead and update the price. So we'll just go into product, we'll go to these airports, and let's set the price to, let's just do uh, $1 here. So we will set this to $1. Now we are seeing the data change here. And when we click on this, this is actually by coincidence, this is still the actual product page. So is still pulling from that products array. So you will notice the price doesn't match what the price is here. So that's because we have the ID of 1. So if we added another product, let's just do something really quick. We'll go into our camera and we'll just say camera here. So cam and actually want to actually do have an image there. So we have our camera now, and if we go into our camera, you will notice that it's still associated with a different product. So the product doesn't match. So what I want to do now is actually do go into the get products here, and instead of pulling from this products array, I want to go ahead and serialize that and actually query the database. So for this, what I can do is I will set the products variable or product variable, and we'll just do uh, product dot objects dot get. So instead of all, we are going to do dot get, and I want to get this by the ID, and for the ID we will just pass in the primary key. So we have the primary key or we have the product, and we just want to use this same serializer. So I will actually just write this out by hand again. So serializer. So we'll just say serializer, and that's going to be the product serializer. So in this case, we are going to pass in product. So we are going to pass in the single item. And now we don't want to return back multiple items. So we want to return back one. So we are just going to set that to false actually. So we set that to false, and we need to return back serializer.data. So now if I go back here, if I click on this, we have our camera, and obviously we didn't fill out all the data. And if we go here, we see the real product. So let's go into our API. If we have our product list, we have these two products now, and we go back to ID number 1. So we get the first one, then we get the second one now. Okay, so that's it for this video. We built out our backend, we made our API, we have our database, we are able to serialize that data, and we are ready to move on to the front end and start using Redux. So what I'm going to do is, once this video is done, I'm going to go through this products array or this product list, and I'm going to start actually adding all of this data through the admin panel here. So I would recommend just going through that. If you want your data to stay consistent, just go through, add that data, and we'll just do that manually. And then I will see you guys in the next Redux video.